You're listening to the Broken Meeple Show, a podcast that speaks passionately about board games for the benefit of those who play them. My name's Luke Hector, best known for the Broken Meeple YouTube channel, and I'm an everyday gamer just like you. And I'll be talking about reviews, top 10s, and just about anything that connects me to board games, as long as I have a tea or coffee in hand, that is. So grab a cup, relax, and enjoy. And remember, it's only a game. Hi everyone, welcome to another Broken Meeple podcast. I'm Luke and this is episode 114. Now, I'm curious how the microphone is going to pick up the sound on this episode because I'm trying something different. A friend of mine who's a bit of an audiophile, one of the 3 people who in the world who has that much of a problem with the audio, is sort of helping me try to figure out if I can actually do a setup where I could do playthroughs, like the ones above the table. So I've got a scaffolding thing, the N-shaped thing above my desk right now. You can't see it, but it's there. And we're trying to figure out if we could make it work. And with his help, possibly. But he does have a few ideas for me to look into. And I'm a little bit, not against, but a little afraid of trying new tech or trying unusual tech when it comes to things like audio mixing and stuff like that. So I don't want anything too complicated, but he's going to show me some stuff, show me how simple it can be, and we'll see if I can be convinced one way or the other. Although one thing that I will be trying out is the camera that I use over there for my actual videos. The shotgun mic is a bit on the low side, so I am kind of thinking, all right, maybe I need to, get a longer shotgun pointing out for it, because the problem is that my mouth is too far away from the microphone to pick it up at a decent volume, so post-production can sometimes distort the sound. So I think he's going to lend me one of his longer shotgun mics to see how that works, and if necessary that means I will upgrade to a longer shotgun mic in the future. As long as it can mount to the camera, I'm happy. So yeah, there's a few little things behind the scenes. I mean, nothing immediate, but it's kind of weird having the scaffolding literally sitting over me as I'm playing Captain's Chair at the moment. Whoop, where's the box? Here we go. Yep, finally got myself a copy of Star Trek Captain's Chair. We've started to see some stock in the UK. Accidentally bought it twice. I bought it with, Kiender had it in stock. I didn't expect them to get it in stock, so I got it from them, but I'd also grabbed it from Thirsty Meeples, thinking that the stock was going to be, non-existent everywhere, so I kind of panic bought it. So now I got 2 copies of it. So assuming that I decide to keep it, there will be at least 1 copy going. But I certainly don't intend to keep 2 of them. But I will be doing a full review on that one. So that is an unpaid, unsponsored review. That is literally just me grabbing it as somebody who enjoyed the Imperium game but had reservations about some bits of it. I'm very curious to see how Star Trek Captain's Chair works out for me. And I've already played a few games. I've got 3 games under my belt using the cadet solo mode where you don't have an AI or anything to try and get to grasp of the rules, because it is a bit of a mission to get everything down, but it's not as bad as Imperium was, so there is some improvements there, mainly because the rulebook's a lot better. But yeah, I'm having fun with it so far. I can't really say much more than that, obviously, because I want to do a detailed review after the expo. So it'll probably be the first main review I do after the expo. But yeah, I want to give this one the beans and give it a fair review and see what it's like, and see how it compares to Imperium. How it does it stand on its own 2 feet? Does it replace Imperium? I know Paul Grogan, I think, has gone on record saying that he gifted away his copy of Imperium and now only plays Captain's Chair. I don't know. I'm seeing the similarities. Yes, of course, it is based on the same system, but there are some differences, and there are some advantages and disadvantages to both copies that I am seeing. So that question is kind of in flux, but it'll be an interesting one to answer. Mainly, though, in terms of the sound of this episode, the microphone I use for this podcast is now in a different position, because normally I have it low down and pointing upwards at me because it doesn't block the screen or anything. Well, again, said friend came in and said, that's a stupid way of doing it, why are you doing it that way? And now it's still on the same magic arm, but it's actually pointing down, so it's just out of shot of the camera webcam. But now I'm pretty much looking directly at it. So the laptop screen is half covered by a microphone, and the microphone is here, literally out of shot. It is a cardioid microphone. Actually, no, is it a cardioid? I don't think it's a cardioid. I think it's a omnidirectional one or something. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how this works, but hopefully this will not muck up the sound in post-production. This is basically trying it as a, gamble. So hopefully it'll work. And by all means, like I say, fingers crossed, eh? So other than that, not a huge amount to update on. I'll be at the expo next weekend. So Thursday to Sunday will be expo time. And that's going to be good fun. So look forward to seeing a bunch of you there. I will be helping out on the Drander Games booth for the duration, for half the duration. So I think Friday morning, Saturday. I think it's Friday afternoon, Saturday morning, and no, Friday morning, Saturday afternoon, and Sunday morning. Yeah, that's the rotors I've got. I'm teaching a game called Jackpot, which I need to get into the rulebook online and actually start, properly learning it because. Practice what you preach. I give demoers a hard time for not getting the rules down ahead of time. Well, case in point, I better do it myself, practice what you preach. But the thing is that this game is only being announced at the expo, so I haven't got a copy of it. I have to basically just go from a pre-production rulebook, so that'll be interesting. But it's supposedly a deck builder where you are trying to get the most amount of points by creating a slot machine. So a deck builder where you try to get 3 in a row via slot machines. I mean, that as a theme, that is very unique and different. So colour me intrigued, but I'll be curious to see how that goes. But that is all I'm demoing the whole weekend. So I won't be doing Galactic Cruise or Navoria or any of those ones like I thought I might be. Although, to be honest, maybe that's a good thing because I don't want to be too biased, when I'm teaching stuff like, Navoria and Galactic Cruise because I already like the games. But also, Galactic Cruise requires quite a hefty teach. So you know what? If somebody else wants to knacker their vocal cords teaching Galactic Cruise, I'm not going to complain. Jackpot, by comparison, will be a lot kinder to my voice. So yeah, that should be pretty sweet. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. They're a good bunch of people, and looking forward to the expo, which, like I say, I wasn't a couple of months ago, so it's good that spark has rekindled a little bit. I think partially because I am helping out demoing, but also just because, hey, it's a convention, why not? Anyway, so, not much else to say. I mean, the channel has been going fine, so let me bring that up. In fact, hang on, bear with me a second. Right, that's better. I realised I hadn't actually shared the screen originally, so I had to sort that out in the background. But yeah, channel's good. Not much to say, really. We're nearly up to 26,000 subscribers, so thank you very much. And recent content has been a little bit sparse, because honestly, I got no games to review. It's a quiet period, I mean, I know other channels are pumping out games, but these are games that I've never heard of, or barely, they're like, what? Are these the big hotness to talk about at the moment? So there's a few like that, but Captain's Chair I'll sort out after the expo. But I was able to do a top 10 games I warmed up to, which has proved nice and popular, so thank you very much. And I had a few games to review from Career Board Games, so I just did them as a compilation video, so by all means, thanks for watching that. But yeah, not a lot of new stuff since the last podcast, and to be honest, the videos are going to be a little bit sparse for the next week or so because of the expo, so I will try to get the top 10 tiny games reviewed. And sorry, it's already in the editing room. I will get it fully edited and release the top 10 tiny games list before I go to the expo. Okay, so that is a guarantee. I will make certain that happens, but subject to IT issues. But otherwise, the videos will basically be on hiatus for while I'm at the expo, and then I'll try and do Captain's Chair when I get back, or some other brief review, and then, because there won't be a podcast next week, because this is a fortnightly thing, the next podcast will be the Sunday after the expo, and that is the episode where I will talk in detail about my experiences at the expo. So that will be like the Games Expo review episode, shall we say. But other than that, yeah, not a lot of content. All right, so let's just talk about some games I've played. Let's talk briefly about a nice one so far. So I'm not the biggest fan of roll and rights and flip and rights and stuff, as you know, so they tend to get a little bit on the, oh god, yet another one. But people kept telling me to play a game called Three Sisters. Three Sisters is kind of like a farm, it's not really a farming game per se, it's more like a gardening game. So you've got a backyard garden full of corn, beans and pumpkins, and you can get different tools and various little upgrades, and you're basically trying to get victory points in classic roll and write style. I mean, this is very much a roll and write. You roll dice, they go on this action board, and based on what you roll, allows you to do various actions, and an AI little pawn thing moves around and possibly fills up. I mean, I'm playing it solo only because, yeah, there's no interaction in this game, so you might as well just, well, there's barely any interaction in this game, so you might as well just play it solo. And yeah, depending on where you roll, the AI will take certain dice and actions from you, so you've obviously got to plan for that. But for the most part, yeah, you're crossing off segments in your garden to score points for the various veg. You're getting bonuses, which lets you level up these like flower tracks or goods tracks, the fruit markers, that go at different rates and get you different bonuses. Honey, there's a honey track at the top. There's the tools, which get you special abilities and stuff. So it's like your typical roll, right? But I have now played a couple of games of it, and yeah, you know what? This actually isn't a bad roll and write. This is definitely up there on one of my kind of more preferred ones. I've not played it with like any expansion element. I mean, I don't recognize this middle board here. I think it's a weather thing. I think that's maybe the advanced mode. But I've just played the normal mode, 2 sheets of paper, which, yes, I know people might be thinking, well, hang on, Hadrian's Wall had that. But Hadrian's Wall was a lot more cluttered than this mess, okay? Yeah, sorry. Wrong word, is much more of a cluttered mess than these 2 sheets are in terms of where things are. It didn't take me very long to learn this one and get the ropes as to what was going on. But yeah, it's a pretty nice, decently produced game, and I quite like it. You've got a good amount of variety in how you can approach each game, and there is a good tactical element to, what you do with the dice actions and how you roll them. So I found this one to be a good, pleasant solo experience. So I'm going to hang on to this one. I recommend giving it a try if you are a fan of the roll and write genre. If you're not, I don't think this is only going to convert you into roll and writes, but I think the theme helps with this one as well. It's a nice, pleasant theme about gardening. It's not, generic like an industry style game, and it's not, weird themes that don't make sense with, well, I mean, no theme really makes sense with a roll and write. That's probably unfair, but I don't know. Like I say, nature and gardening, it's weird. I like these sort of themes in games, but I am not a green-fingered person. I mean, I hate having to deal with my current garden, which is barely even a garden. It's literally just a path and a lawn, and I can't even be bothered to deal with that. I have to get somebody in to cut the lawn every now and again. It's just, gardens for me are a waste of space. They look good, and if you maintain a great one, they are nice to look at. But I've got no care about sitting in the garden doing nothing. I'd rather just go into the hills and do a hike. Go walk in the South Downs or the hills, mountains and stuff. Go to see the proper nature. And the effort having to maintain one and make sure the flowers don't die and all this stuff, it's just, it's not for me. If I meet somebody who's a garden freak, then fine. The garden is their domain. Kitchen is my domain. But yeah, this is a decent, solid roll and write. Not often I say that about roll and writes, but I was quite impressed with just how smooth this one played out. It felt like you could do a lot. Felt like there were some good combo turns you could have, but it also felt streamlined. It didn't feel too hard to figure out what to do, and it's thinky without being too thinky. It's that sort of weird description, but yeah, I enjoyed it. So 3 Sisters, nice one. Now let's go in the opposite direction to a game which, oh my word, talk about disappointment. Ice. Now I need to stress something before I talk about this game. I was playing the first edition of this game. It wasn't my copy, somebody else's copy. And all of us don't particularly like the game. None of us enjoyed it at the time. The person who taught us it was figuring out if they wanted to keep it or not, but even they'd had bad experiences, and I think it's now solidified the fact that they don't want to keep it anymore. But yeah, we've played the first edition. I am aware that they have made a second edition and are releasing that at some point soon, which is supposedly going to fix some of the issues. I don't know how well that will do. I'm not that keen to try it out, honestly, because unless you change the fundamentals of the game, I don't think I would still enjoy the second edition. I think I would just like it a bit more. But yeah, suffice to say, this game sucked. I hated this one. We all did. It was boring, it was punishing, it was luck-driven, and it went on for friggin' ever. I mean, this is meant to be... It plays like a game with a massive identity crisis. So it doesn't know whether it wants to be some silly, ha-ha, in your face, oh, I screwed you over game with take-that mechanics and luck aspects of discovery in that. Well, no, because it's got those elements, but then it also is meant to be a thinky, meaty Euro game with a decent amount of mechanics, tactical play with how you're going to deal with your actions and set collection and, whether you're going to use artifact special abilities and stuff. And it's like, so which one are you then? Because it tries to do everything, and much like a lot of these things, if you try to please everybody, you don't please anybody. And that's kind of how I felt with this. It's 90 to 120 minutes on the box. if you've got 4 of you or more, you are lucky to get it done in 2 hours. I mean, this game took us the most of the night to do it. I mean, after the teach, the setup, and then getting it played and packed, I mean, it took us the whole gaming night. This took us over 3 hours to play. It was ridiculous. And I think it was only accelerated by the fact that I desperately tried to rush the game end. You know, the game end trigger of having something at the bottom exposed, you know, the ice level. And I thought, you know what, I don't care if I win or not. I just need this to end. And I think everybody else needs to end because, you know, the one guy pretty much rage quit during the scoring where he had to head off, but he'd already quit during the game in the sense of, yeah, this game is bad, and we were discussing the bad points of it. So I was actually kind of enjoying the fact that somebody else was imploding more than I was, because normally I'm the one who goes like, you know, rage mode, rant mode when I go on this channel and talk about games. I don't tend to go into that mode when I'm playing the game because, yeah, that's not really courteous to the person teaching you, although in this case they didn't really care. But it was just kind of amusing to be on the other end watching somebody else go into a rant explosion mode. It just feels good. But man, oh god, hated this. So what are the problems? Well, first of all, what is the context of the game? Because I haven't even explained that. Basically, you're archaeologist. You're on this board that's multi-layered, and the production quality is fine, but I wouldn't say it was stellar. Although I do like this board that's got multi-layered tiles that you dig through. And the idea is that you dig through the surface, you dig to multiple layers, and you're trying to collect artifact tiles. These artifact tiles are set collection for objectives, for points, and the artifacts, if you get so many of them, can give you a special ability that can trigger as a one-off. So it's basically that. But you have a person and, you know, little archaeologists, who I like to call little marshmallow men because they are basically shaped like the marshmallow men out of Ghostbusters. And the idea is that you collect these together and you spend a certain amount of action points on a day, and you take it in turns to spend action points to do stuff like dig or move or get more objectives and the like. But there's a decent amount of screwage. I mean, there are ways that you can just get something before somebody else does, but also some of the tiles that you get at the top, the snow tiles, they've got special abilities on them that you can trade in the tile for. Some of them are inconsequential and useless. Some of them are downright broken, powerful, and useful, and some of them just outright screw over opponents, and there's nothing you can do to defend yourself from them. So you've got a random aspect there. But here's the other thing. When you dig down, you also don't know what artifacts are down there until you dig. So if your objectives tell you that you're hunting for blues and yellows, and for example, and you dig down and all you find is reds and greens or something, it's like, well, right, I've wasted half my time digging down and I can't find artifacts to do with my objectives. And if you don't get the objectives in this game, you actually lose the points. So it's similar to Ticket to Ride. I don't know if it's the exact same negative that you get, but you suffer if you don't complete the objective. So you've got this punishing aspect there, as well as people screwing you over. And sometimes you might be screwed over just by turn order. I had a situation where literally I could not dig ever, because if I dig, like for 2 to 3 turns, I wasn't allowed to dig, because if I did, then whatever I dig for could just simply be nicked by somebody who was close to me at the time. So I had to basically forfeit a turn to do something mostly useless to try and skip the turn order, but it didn't really make a huge amount of difference. So that didn't really feel particularly great. But the AP nature of this game, oh my god, because it's tactical, you can't play this as a strategy game because there's too much luck, too much take that. So it's tactical, which means you've got to think on your turn. And when you're doing something with action points in a game with tactical aspects, the AP factor goes off the friggin' scale. People will take forever to think about what they need to do for a turn because it's so paramount, because somebody can steal what you're just going for, and that completely undoes the last couple of turns that you had. So you can't just play it, you know, casually, like a game with luck and, you know, take that mechanic should be played, because it's too important what you do in a meaty Euro game with mechanics that's 2 hours plus long to deal with. So this is what I mean about the identity crisis. It's just, it doesn't know what it wants to be. Quick little drink. Voice is going already. But, so, you know, on top of that, the objectives, they're not particularly interesting. I mean, they're mostly just collect a set of colors or a set of shapes. But again, if you've got an objective that says get 3 different shapes on the tiles, you don't know what the shape is until you excavate the tile. You get a bunch of tiles and they're all the same shape. Well, that's you screwed. You have no way to tell if it's the right one before you get it. So, let's say you've got luck of the abilities that you draw, some of which are more powerful than others. You've got the starting player powers, which are clearly not balanced. I mean, I had one that allowed me to use an artifact ability during my turn. It was this one, the Incandescence. It was okay, but still only semi-useful. Other people had stuff that allowed them to do like quicker movement or easier archaeologist grabbing. That is so paramount to the game that that's easily better. But then saying that, one person, and you can tell that this game, I think it wasn't originally designed to be 5 players. Yes, you can play it with 5, but it says best at 3, and I would agree that's probably the case. But I bet you this game was not designed with 5 in mind until people did the classic, I want 5 players on my Kickstarter. You know, it's like, you know, because I, for some reason, decided that I want to play in groups of 5. But, you know, the problem with this is that when you have, like, the player powers, you can see the player powers, they're not necessarily the well balanced. I mean, you know, Stonemaier, eat your heart out here. But you can tell when they bolted on the 5th player because the player powers range from like, this works, but it's a little bit more powerful than that one, but it's a normal mechanic, that's a normal mechanic, this is a normal mechanic. One power the host had is literally, and I kid you not, when you excavate an artifact tile, guess what shape it's got on it out of 3 choices, right? And if you get it right, you get 2 victory points. That is literally the player power, is a slot machine. It's a loot box slot machine for a player power in a game with a decent amount of luck and take that elements, but with 2.5 hours plus on the game runtime. Who the hell designed that player power and greenlit that? That is garbage. You know, any playtesting anywhere would have revealed that that power is stupid. I mean, it either does nothing for you or it can single-handedly win you the game. But what on earth has that got to do with archaeology, like guessing and getting victory points? It is stupid as a power. And, I mean, the rulebook itself is not particularly clear. The reference aid sort of misses out little key details that you need to know about certain rules. I mean, it's not a bad reference aid, but there are certain key bits that is like, oh, okay, I wish I knew that on the aid, to be honest. The movement system with how the system where you spread out archaeologists after you excavate the tile and that is quite clunky. It's difficult to, it's not intuitive. It's just a mess, and I'm sure it was produced nicely and that, although I hear this one had problems because they basically overreached themselves. So they like tried to make a game that costs more than they thought it was going to. So they clearly spent way too much time thinking about how to get the gimmick done, which honestly that gimmick dies out pretty quickly while you're playing it because you're playing it for so damn long. And they didn't think enough about actually developing the game mechanics. You know, I mean, they're making a 2nd edition for a reason, and it's not just production costs. They're making it to fix the problems that this game had. So I really did not like this. I mean, somebody hated it more than I did, frankly, but, you know, if I was to give Three Sisters something like an 8 out of 10 and say that's actually a great game, this one, this is 3, maybe even a 2. I really did not enjoy this game. You know, there's very little about it that I could say in the 1st edition was that redeemable. It really just seemed to, you know, it tried to be everything and messed itself over in the process. You know, I just couldn't really think of anything that was done well. I mean, the excavating part is fine, but that gimmick wears off. Other than that, nothing else is produced to that higher level. It's pretty standard component quality. And all the rules in it, like the mechanics and the objectives and the player powers and all that stuff, have all got problems with them. So nothing is done completely well. So this one was just basically a failure. And I was looking forward to trying this one, but noticing that it never hit retail and people stopped talking about it the second it fulfilled, and you know, it never really got much buzz after that. It's like, I have suspicions as to whether this was just hyped up in the previews and then turned out to be not that great. And lo and behold, 2nd edition, I think I'm right. So, yeah, maybe the 2nd edition fixes a bunch of this stuff. I don't know. But for 1st edition play, this was, ironically, for a game called Ice, hot garbage. Right. Okay, let's get on to the main episode in general. Let's see if we can use up another half hour for this. I'm going to try and be realistic with the fact that my podcasts take a while now, but I'll have to see how my voice lasts anyway. But basically, I've got a couple of ideas in the run for what I fancy doing for top topics. Somebody suggested on Patreon to do a quick run through of the BGG top 100 and just give my quick thoughts on each one. That does sound cool, but I think I'm going to save that for an episode in its own right, rather than do it as a podcast, because I think that's popular enough that I would just do it as an episode. Sit on my laptop, go through the list, and just give some quickie thoughts. So I'll probably do that at some point after the expo. Or maybe before, we'll see. Nah, let's not stress myself out too much. After the expo. But, I've got to do the Tiny Games top 10 first, and that takes a while to edit in itself. But, I digress. But the other topic that has been suggested on my Patrons is what influences me to buy a game. So, I've been doing this for quite a while, and there's definitely, a bit of jadedness that goes into like some games that I want. There's definitely appreciation for certain other mechanics and themes and designers and publishers, both high and low in that regard. And there's definitely changes into how I approach wanting to grab a new game, and it's difficult to get excited by games now. I mean, every time you see me talk about conventions or the anticipated games, I find it very difficult to find a bunch of stuff that I'm excited about, because I've reviewed a lot of games, I've played a lot of games. There's only so much you can do to suddenly catch my interest, and there's a lot of repetition in the industry. There's a lot of blatant cash grabbing. I mean, I'm sorry, if you're going to claim that we needed Everdell Farshore or Dune Imperium Uprising and stuff like that, if you're going to say that those were necessary games and not cash grabs, you're deluded. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I cannot agree that those were not cash grabs. But, with the rest of games in general, what is it that gets me interested? So no particular order, I'm just going to go over a few points and just give my thoughts. So first off, theme. So theme is probably up there as a big contender for getting me interested in a game. So, I mentioned Star Trek Captain's Chair a second ago. So, that one is likely to get my interest because I do like Star Trek. Now, I am not a Trekkie, by any means. I mean, cool blimey, you watch the Paul Grogan's playthroughs and stuff. There are some Trek nerds out there on his channel, who know way too much lore. I mean, I played the first two games of the Star Trek game I played, if I can grab the player boards. Oh, here we go. Player boards. So, some of these people I recognize. Where are the others? Here we go. So, basically, first game I played, of course, Jean-Luc Picard, because he is, in my opinion, MVP of the entire Star Trek franchise. So, he's the beginner deck in this. He's the easier deck to play, but he's a good fun deck still. I love Jean-Luc Picard. I like Next Generation. It's my history. I have watched all of Next Generation. I've watched all of Voyager. And I've watched most of Discovery. Although, to be honest, I got bored with Discovery at about season 4. And Discovery didn't really get that good until season 2. Season 2 and 3 were probably my highlights for Discovery. Season 1 was pretty trash. And 4 and 5 just got repetitive. It just span its wheels. So I kind of gave up at that point. But yeah, for me, Star Trek for me is basically Next Generation and Voyager. I've not watched Deep Space Nine. I've not watched the originals. I refuse to watch Enterprise. That looks really boring. I tried to watch Star Trek Lower Decks, but I didn't find it funny. I watched 3 episodes of it, and I was expecting to be laughing out loud, and I laughed at one joke. Literally, I didn't even smirk at other jokes. There was just one joke that made me laugh, and it was like a throwaway line joke. One of the guys, the nerdy black guy, I forget what his name is, but he basically the synthetic black guy, I forget what he is, but he goes into a simulation to try and do like the captain's training, and he fails it, completely mucks it up in the first bit, and the computer afterwards says casualty rate 112%, and he turns to his shoulder and was like, wait, how did I kill more than the whole crew? That line just made me laugh. It made me laugh hard. And that's the only bit I laughed at. But it's still gone on for a lot of series, and some people watch it. So, should I give Lower Decks another chance? I don't know. I like the voice actor, not the actress. I don't particularly like her. I think she's obnoxious and annoying. But I quite like I forget his name. Is it Quaid? So something Quaid? Is it Dennis Quaid? No, it's not Dennis Quaid. That's someone else. Something Quaid. But the guy who's in The Boys. I like him. And to be fair, when that's the other series I've watched. Actually, that reminds me, not The Boys, but the Star Trek Strange New Worlds with Pike. Pike, I really think is a really cool character. I like Spock, and I like those characters. And yeah, they did a crossover with Lower Decks in there, and that episode was fine, a bit cheesy, but I liked Quaid's acting in that, not the annoying other voice actress. cool, blimey, I was talking about my liking for games, and I've just gone on a Star Trek rant. Oh god, maybe I'm more into it than I thought. I don't know, but as I say, there's a lot of nerds out there. I'm still a casual viewer by comparison, but this is maybe this is illustrating my point. Theme. Theme's a big deal because I like Imperium. Imperium has civilization style themes, even though I'm not a massive history nut, but that's enough to get me interested to try this deck builder. This one, I would have probably passed it up had it used a different IP. You know, Star Wars, I would have been like, oh god, we've seen so many Star Wars stuff now. Star Trek, I'm like, this could work. You could play a different captain with the decks and stuff like that, but if they use some other generic IP, I probably wouldn't go near it, or wouldn't enjoy it as much. So I think definitely the fact that this one is Star Trek themed is having some impact on my enjoyment of it. But then, you know, in contrast, you know, I said I played Jean-Luc Picard as my first one and really enjoyed it. Second one was I didn't play as well, and I played this guy called Shran, who apparently is from Enterprise. Apparently he's well known. I have no idea, but I liked winding up Trek nerds and David Turksey by calling him a generic blue alien dude. So you know, it's always fun to wind up fans at times because some people do take things way too seriously. But it's a good game so far. But like I say, theme makes a difference. I mentioned Jackpot as well. This is the one that I will be demoing at it. Now I don't know if this is a good game mechanically or not. Until we get there, and I'm curious as to where Jackpot would be on here, because the problem is there's so many games called Jackpot. That's probably the worry I have. This game's going to have a generic name, so it's not going to you know, show up much. I mean, I'm looking down this list and I can't even find it. I'm trying to find a Jackpot that's basically coming out in 2025, and Field of that is it called Mega? Nope, it can't be Mega Jackpot. It's not called that. I'm pretty positive it's not that one. But that's all the jackpots that are there, so maybe it's not even on Board Game Geek yet. Yeah, that's not the one. That's interesting. Yeah, it's not even on Board Game Geek yet. I mean, it is barely like sort of announced, so I guess we'll just find it later. But what I'm basically getting at is that whole theme of having a slot machine with a deck builder is like, okay, that's a little bit different. I haven't really seen that. I mean, yes, there's a lot of jackpot games there, but I think doing it with a deck builder could be a good laugh. And so that theme gets me into it. IPs, Deep Rock Galactic, you know, I'll look at a most skirmish, you know, dudes on the map game, and I'll be like, oh, well, there's another dudes on the map game. Yeah, what area control is this? Or what, you know, what are we shooting and stuff? But Deep Rock Galactic is based off a video game that I haven't played in ages. I think I've kind of reached my limit to mind. Well, I still love the game, but there's nowhere to progress in it. So now I'm just going through the motions, and there's other games I'm trying to play, like Baldur's Gate 3 and that are sucking up the time. Yeah, so, you know, but I sunk like 500, 600 hours into that game. So of course a game based on Deep Rock Galactic is going to get my interest. And, you know, that's from an IP perspective, but, you know, just interesting themes generally. I mean, let's look at, you know, Marvel, Cinematic Universe and all that lot. I'm naturally going to like that sort of thing. Star Wars and, you know, other IPs, but Earth, nature games. I really like nature games. So, you know, Earth I really like. Ark Nova I really like. You know, what animal games? Life of the Amazonia. You know, stuff like that. That sort of theme gets me interested. Let's Spirit Island, kind of similar deal. You know, magic spirits and, you know, of all nature and stuff like that. I mean, that's all pretty cool. Meadow, nature themed. What else have we got? Looking on the walls, some expansion boxes. Street Masters, yeah, Streets of Rage and all those sort of deals. You know, it's not an IP per se, but it's definitely paying homage to that kind of thing, so that gets my interest. Fields of Isle, you know, the Uri Rosenberg farming games. I like farming as a theme, so if a game comes out about farming, I mean, Awakened Realms are doing Agricola 2nd edition, you know, proper new edition, and I have problems with Agricola as a mechanical game, but if they fix some of those mechanics and make it look as gorgeous as they can make it, I might be tempted to get back into Agricola and give it another shot with a new edition of it. So theme is definitely something that works. It's got to be up there. If it's not my number one, it's definitely up there as a big contender for this is what's going to get me interested in the game. You feed me generic, like, you know, this is a Euro game about building an industry in the 19th century in Birmingham. Yay. Great. Yeah, wave my little flag. There was much rejoicing. Yay. There's like, you know, some of these themes can be rehashed and they're boring. That's why I'm not a fan of beige Euros, because all the beige Euros that come out are just so dreary and dull in what their themes are. I mean, on the solo channels, some people talk about a game recently called Men the Fur or something. I mean, if I don't know the history or what the setting is, I wouldn't recognize what that name even means. But then even when I look at the game, it looks beige, the theme's boring. It came out, the other one, the same publisher and designer did Sabika or something, and again, boring box covers, dull themes, or no theme at all. I mean, it's just a beige Euro. Ray Safa from Delicious Games, the Vladimir Suhi one, I mean, that looks dreary and dull. These ones don't excite me. I can't get excited about generic Euro title with beige theme on it. It's like, it's impossible for me to get excited about those. So it's definitely a big contender, I'd have to say. Coffee. I put it in my sort of like container now. I take this to work all the time, and I take it to Cafe Nero, where free mobile gives me cheap barista coffee each week. So I pretty much live and breathe off this thing now. And certainly you'll see me with it at the expo. But yeah, coffee to wake up, because I'm doing this quite early in the morning, actually. It's 20 past 10 now. Normally I'd barely be up and ready out of bed or something on a Sunday, but I like to lie in on Sundays, but now I'm getting into the habit of getting up early. So it might give me more editing time. But alright, next up, mechanics-wise, do mechanics get me that interested? Not terribly. It depends. There are some mechanics I like more than others. So I think this one necessarily doesn't excite me from this mechanic's in it, I'm going to love the game, with maybe one or two exceptions. Mainly this will just be a case of, this is the mechanic of the game, seen it. And certain mechanics are definitely like that. I mean, if you just tell me it's a set collection game, for crying out loud, set collection is like a common thing in pretty much every game in existence. It's not exactly the selling point of a game. But area control is a mechanic I kind of like the least out of a bunch. I mean, some area control games I like. Chaos in the Old World, notwithstanding, in the corner over there. And I was interested in the one from the expo that's being demoed. What's it called? The something Veil? Sword Veil or something? The one that's got the multicolored cards. I mentioned it on the last UK Games Expo preview episode. So I forget what it's called. Sword Avalon Veil or something. I don't know. But that looks interesting. And that's mostly an area control game. So, there are some exceptions. But yeah, you tell me that there's an area control game, like a skirmish, kill dudes on the map area control game, chances are I'm just gonna, whatever. Dudes on the map games, actually, another one. Doesn't tend to get me that excited. I mean, I reviewed Apex Legends recently. Now, I reviewed it. It had its good side, it had its bad sides. I don't think it's amazing, but I think it's fine. But was I excited about it? No, not really. I mean, I've seen a lot of these games about, here's a bunch of guys in an arena shoot each other. They take a lot to learn, they require a lot of investment in time, and so it's like, is it going to be worth it? But, oh well, let's go into it and find out. And so, the excitement level is difficult to keep high in that respect, despite the fact that I like some of the other games that a publisher or designer may have done. But then a mechanic could get me excited if it's one I really like. Now, co-ops I really like, but the co-op on its own is not going to make me that excited. Yes, some of my favourite games in my top 10 are co-ops, but that's just a coincidence, really. But I think unique mechanics could get me excited for a game, or ones that aren't used very much. So I do love deck building, but it's being used a ton. So yes, this Jackpot game is using deck building. Cool, I like the mechanic, that helps. But really it's the theme combined with that that's helping. But in terms of like a rarely used mechanic, I keep raving about the Arc Nova one. So the one that's called the typewriter mechanic, as I call it. So Arc Nova has it and uses it, and I've played this game so much lately. I've been playing it on the app and on BGA. I swear I'm up to like 150 odd plays or 160 odd plays. It's ridiculous. I am playing the hell out of this game at the moment. I still love it. But, Arc Nova has used that typewriter mechanic with the action row and done it well. But it was A New Dawn that pioneered it. So A New Dawn, Civilization, A New Dawn. Yeah, so this was the first game to actually use it, and I still hold down that this is a very entertaining game, especially with the expansion. Although I'd probably actually say you need the expansion. It's essential that you get it before you play the base game on its own. But, this is a really solid game, and it uses that typewriter mechanic with that action row, and it did it in a really cool way. So if some game comes out in the future that says, we're using this typewriter mechanic, instantly I'm going to be interested in it. Because it's something different, or something that hasn't been used enough. This has been used twice in games. I am more than happy for a designer to come out and say, here's the third one that's using this mechanic, and to bring it back into the limelight. I guarantee, first person that comes out and says, I'm using that mechanic, I'm interested in their game. probably regardless of who the designer is, honestly. I mean, it could be Reiner Knizia, it could be Alexander Pfister, for all I care. It could be Jamie Stegmaier. Any one of those three or something that tend to make games that I'm not a huge fan of could make a game with a typewriter mechanic, and I'd probably still be interested to try it out just because of it. So, unique innovation is probably something that would get me pretty excited for a game, but yeah, just the mechanic on its own isn't really enough. It'll make me go, okay, I'll probably like it, but unless I think a game is going to be amazing, it's not really going to get me that excited. If I think a game's going to be, yeah, it's fine, then where's the excitement in that? Okay, what else? Well, let's talk about the obvious next two, designer and publisher. This rarely gets me excited for a game. Certainly it can get me less excited for a game though, because there are obviously some designers and publishers that don't tend to make games that I tend to like. I mean, for example, I already mentioned like three designers. I mean, Alexander Pfister, Reiner Knizia, and, Jamie Stegmaier are not making games that I tend to go for much at the moment. I mean, yes, I love Great Western Trail New Zealand, but that's kind of like, and I liked Broom Service. On top of that, there aren't really a lot of Alexander Pfister games that I really got my stock behind. I mean, some of them are okay or fine for a play, but there are some that I particularly dislike. So obviously, if a game comes out and it's like, this is the new Alexander Pfister game, I'd be like, whatever. Reiner Knizia, design 1 million games. Is probably a mathematical genius. Well, not probably, he is a mathematical genius, but the thing is, when you design that many games, you can design a bunch of stinkers as well. And there are definitely way more stinkers I find from him than good ones. I mean, Shall We, the one that I talked about, the Shell Domino type thing from the Korean episode, that game was boring and terrible. I mean, that was a bad game. And that was a Reiner Knizia design. So, yeah, his name's on the box, not really going to care. Stefan Feld, actually, I probably should be fair to some of these designers, because Stefan Feld is definitely a designer who, as nice a chap as he is, Martin Wallace, again, very nice chap. But if those two are designing the game, I'm pretty much not excited for what they design, because again, they don't tend to make games that I tend to like. It's nothing on the person, it's just their style of game doesn't gel with me, so it doesn't get me excited for it. But then, designers that I do like don't always make the best games themselves. I mean, everybody puts their foot wrong every now and again. So, but there are some exceptions. There are some that are better than others. Like, for example, I make this kind of links to publisher, actually, Garfield Games. So Garfield Games lately have just been on kind of a roll. They have made a lot of games that I enjoy. So, all the Tigris stuff, has been great for me. Inventors of the South Tigris, Scholars and Wayfarers. In fact, I played Scholars the other day, actually. And again, really enjoyed it. And I think in the next month and a half, 2 months, we'll see the expansions for all the Tigris games come out. Cannot wait for those. I mean, those I'm excited for. And I guess that's another thing, yeah. To get excited for a brand new game is harder for me than to get excited for an expansion. It's easy for me to get excited for an expansion because it's taking a game that I already like and hopefully making it better. So, they announced SETI. Yeah, the SETI expansion. That's coming out later this year. Space Agencies. Well, I mean, we knew it was coming, but of course I'm excited for that because I love SETI, but it has a couple of problems with it. And if this expansion helps to fix those problems while adding more variety, then of course I'm going to be excited for this one. So expansions are kind of a different kettle of fish in all of themselves. But definitely, yeah, if Garfield Games comes out with another game, then I'm typically excited to see what it does. To a point, though, because even Garfield Games can mess up every now and again. I mean, I did the best and worst of Garfield Games on my channel, that video, so that's a prime example that just because a publisher's name is on the box, or designer's name, doesn't mean I necessarily get that excited, because you set yourself up for more disappointment if you get too excited about everything. This is why I don't buy into the hype train for a lot of games, and, I don't like it where previewers out there who look at Kickstarter games, I hate it when they build up hype for games because it's just an advert and it misleads the consumer and I don't like it. The same goes for content creators who literally only review when you only review a game if you like it, meaning that you have no negatives to say about anything that you look at, that doesn't tell me anything useful, it just feels misleading. And so that's why I don't agree with that practice. But it's definitely lower on the scale, though, I think, because Garfield Games can make a game I dislike. I mean, I like all their I like their trilogy stuff. Though not all of them. Paladins, Explorers. I mentioned that they weren't great, but then I'm not the biggest fan of Garfield's historical stuff. I found Ezra and Nehemiah kind of meh. didn't particularly like Hadrian's Wall that much, and they've released a couple more this year. Was it Anarchy, which is the sequel to that one, I think it's meant to be, and Scra, or whatever it is. I mean, what's that called? Is it literally called Scra or something? I don't know. Let's have a look. Scra, Scroll, Scroll, Scroludo, Scrapnor, Scroll, blah, blah. Okay, that's not really helping. Let's have a look at Garphill Games. Garphill Games. What is it that they were releasing soon? We got Ezra. Already mentioned that. Yeah, wasn't the biggest fan of Hadrian's Wall. Never played Legacy of You. The Circadians First Light and Chaos Order were fine games, but I never found them to be amazing per se. But it doesn't really have the Ancient Anthology, is it on it? No, they haven't really got their future stuff on here. Maybe if I go to them on Board Game Geek as a publisher, it will start finding the newest ones. So here we go, C110. Oh, here we go. Well, there's the Anarchy, and I swear the other one began with S. So let's go to for RS Scholars Shipwrights Skara. Here we go. Yeah, Skara Bray. I have no idea what the hell Skara Bray means. Neolithic Northern Scotland. Fill me in if you want. I mean, I'm not a historical expert. I don't know what the hell this is referencing, but you know, it's a resource management game. I like resource management, so as a mechanic, it sounds cool, but the historical theme doesn't really grab me, and I've no idea whether I'll like this game or not, although I have to admit, those millions of resources do tickle my fancy a bit, because I do like it when a game gives you loads of different resources to manage. It's why I like Aura and Labora from Uri Rosenberg, because that one gives you a bucket load of different resources to muck around with. But then the Anarchy, this isn't exciting me at all, because this basically just looks like another complicated, like, Hadrian's Wall. I mean, look at that. Look at that. I mean, who the hell is playing this game as a 4-player game? Seriously, it's blatantly going to be multiplayer solitaire, but all this stuff all over your sheets. I mean, I talked about Three Sisters. That is a much more streamlined use of 2 sheets than this lot is. But maybe this one is an improvement. I don't know, but certainly I'm not excited to play it, but I will try it. I will try anything once. So, you know, even a publisher and a designer, where there's a lot of goodwill from games they've made, can mess up. I mentioned Stonemaier before. You know, Stonemaier made 3 games in a row that I loved. Scythe, Wingspan, and Viticulture. Not in that order, but, you know, those 3 great games. But since Wingspan, which I think was the last one, they haven't made a thing that I've considered to be that great. I mean, the highest mark I've given any of the games since is a 6 out of 10. And I think that was for Apiary. But Expeditions, boring. The Pendulum game, terrible. Tapestry, pretty below average, if not terrible. You know, I already mentioned the Apiary. It's above average. It's fine, but it's nothing particularly new or interesting. What's the most recent one they did? Charterstone. Not a particularly good legacy game either. So they're not exactly making a lot of stuff that I'm interested in. And I know that Paul Grogan, I think, recently showed off the fact that he got something called the hell was it called? So I can't even remember the name of it. But basically, they've got this new sandbox style game coming out, and that could be good. I like sandboxy style games, but the thing is that track record hasn't exactly been great for the last few years. Therefore, I'm not exactly super excited. But, you know, anybody can surprise you. Because you can have games where a designer, you know, gets it right for you. I mean, I mentioned Alexander Pfister. Yeah, I generally don't tend to go mad for his games. But I love Great Western Trail New Zealand. I love that game. I think it's amazing. Stefan Feld. You know, generally don't tend to go for his games. But I thought Amerigo was a bit of a laugh. And I remember playing Cocopelli. That weird card game that he did. I thought that was quite a cool, clever little card game. But Cocopelli, Cocopelli. It sounds like a breakfast cereal advert. But, you know, I enjoyed this one. I thought this was quite a clever little game. And when I was introduced to it, they didn't even tell me it was a Stefan Feld game. It didn't even feel like a Stefan Feld game. I thought this was like a Knizia game. And I thought, okay, I enjoyed this one. 7 out of 10. You know, 7 out of 10, a good game. Not something I would normally say about a Stefan Feld game. You know, Civolution, you know, probably 5 out of 10 I would give that. Average, you know, it's okay, but it's got some problems. Mostly to do with its length and high luck factor. But it's, you know, some, you know, say unfair words. Designers and publishers that I don't like can still get it right. And the opposite is also true. Designers and publishers that I love can also trip over themselves. It's it's part of the reason why I don't necessarily get super excited for a new game just because of the name on the box. It's not always a big factor for me. What else could go into it? So we've done theme, mechanics, we've got the publisher, we've got the designer. Is there anything else about the game that would get me interested? I mean, production quality? No, not really. Production quality obviously would like make a game more fun to play or more interesting to play. I mean, you give me a game with rubbish components but it's got amazing mechanics, then I'll still enjoy it, but it will damper the experience. But you give me a game that's enjoyable but has really great components and it just elevates the system at the end of the day. I mean, the Captain's Chair one that I'm playing at the moment, I mean, I'm enjoying the game itself, but if I'm perfectly honest, the component quality is not fantastic and the artwork, it's very inconsistent, mostly bad, but then there are some good bits in it as well, and it's just weird. It's kind of like how Arcs was, where Arcs has a particular style of art, but some of it is proper artwork, and then all of a sudden on some cards it just goes into scrapbook notepaper mode or something. And the same goes for this Star Trek one. You get a couple of pictures, which I swear are good enough to be in something like Empires of the Void by Red Raven Games, and then you get boring stuff like this. I mean, yay, that's such a cool card to look at. I mean, in fact, can I find the card I'm on about? Nope, it's too far underneath the leaves on there, so I can't find the card that I said was gorgeous. But unless there's any of them here. Is there anyone here? Nope. But you know, you look at these cards for artwork. I mean, this is the sort of stuff that's in Captain's Chair, okay? So you got like a okay-ish alien, but on a dull background or something. You've got the ship. Where is it? The ship there. So that's not too bad. It's not too bad artwork for the ship. But then, what am I supposed to do with, you know, these? I mean, boring, generic. And so, you know, that obviously deflates a little bit, but it's not the first thing that I'm going to go, oh yeah, I'm not interested in this game because the artwork sucks. It could still be a fun game regardless. But, that being said, first bite is with the eye. And, you know, people were discussing this on the solo Facebook group earlier, actually, about Mend the Fur, funny enough. You know, people saying, like, why are more people not liking this game? Well, firstly, it didn't have a high print run, but also, if you look at the game, it's got a very uninspiring box cover, much like Sabika did. The name Mend the Fur means absolutely nothing to the casual person unless you know what the hell it's referencing. And when you look at the game itself, it looks beige as all get out. I mean, most of the board is literally beige, or yellow anyway, so nothing about it looks interesting to the eye when you look at it and pick it up off a shelf or whatever. It may be a good fun game, I've no idea, I would like to try it, but I've never heard anybody talk about it outside of solo play. So that's telling me it's multiplayer solitaire, which actually, well no, not again, but multiplayer solitaire is actually something that could deflate me off a game. If I think a game is not worth playing with other people and it's only a solo game, then depending on the game, some of them work like that, but there are games I want to play with multiplayer. So, you know, that would be a problem, but you know, and that's the sort of thing. You know, you look at those games, Mend the Fur and Sabika, there is nothing to the eye that would intrigue you into this game unless you literally see the world in beige. And trust me, I have a friend of mine who I swear sees the world in beige, but you know, in terms of the games he likes. But you know, I digress. There's a laugh. But it's just like, yeah, unless you are devoid of seeing color or you know something exciting, then I don't know. I don't see what in those games would make you go, ooh, excited for this one. Yay, beige Euro mechanics. It's why? It's just it's kind of weird. But you know, that's yeah, bite is with the eye. So I guess visual appeal. It won't necessarily get me like super excited for a game. Like, oh my god, this has got such excellent production quality. This game is going to be amazing when it comes out. But no, it's definitely going to help. It's not going to deflate it anymore if I see that it's produced well, at least. Okay, anything else? We've done designer, we've done publisher, theme mechanics. I mean, at this point, you're now going into kind of nitpicky bits. So, you know, length of the game. If I know the game's going to be super long, then, you know, the game better do highly on the other bits that I've just mentioned before I'm going to get that excited over it. That's definitely a factor. Player count. I mean, most games should be 2 to 4, although the 2-player mode's usually a variant. If I see it's got 5 on the box, that usually means it's not been designed very well with 5. It's just to please the people who have extended families and or uneven gaming groups. And it's just, yeah, I mean, that can, you know, be a factor, but I don't get excited for a game just because it happens to have the right player count settings, so that's not really a thing. And I mean, yeah, some of these points kind of are more what deflates me to a game rather than excites me to a game. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. so many games come out, and I think the recent like shipping crisis and Trump tariffs and all these things that are affecting the industry in a negative way are also kind of doing something that I kind of wanted the industry to do a little bit, which is slow the hell down. The industry can afford to slow down a bit, not release thousands and thousands and thousands of games every year because we can't physically play them all. Back in the day, you used to only get like a couple of hundred games a year, but people were excited for those. Like, people were like, oh, this is going to be the games of the year. Let's try it. Now, everything just blends into each other. And so games get missed out and people sort of go, why didn't this one get more love? Because there's like tens of thousands of games every year. It's nigh impossible to get yourself seen unless you're either very good at social media, cough, cough, Stonemeyer, or or your game is just that good. It's definitely going to be tricky to get yourself noticed. That's just the way it is. So if the industry does slow down a bit, which I feel like it has done certainly in the last few months, I mean, it's not often I actually run out of games to review, even in the quiet months. It's probably a good thing in that respect. I mean, obviously, I wish that companies didn't have to close and people didn't have to lose their jobs, but that's the negative side of things. But the industry slowing down a bit is not something unwarranted. But what else? What else? Nah, I mean, that's kind of the summary of it. Theme, unusual or innovative mechanics, and to some extent, publisher pedigree will have an impact, like more than others. Obviously, I love expansions, but yeah, I think the theme and the interesting mechanics are the main thing. A good theme. What's the law I used to use? I think it still applies now. Was it a good? Good mechanics will make me enjoy a game. A good theme will make me come back for the second play. And that's kind of a law I do live by. You can give me a game with half decent mechanics and I'll enjoy it and I'll think it's fine. But if I'm not interested in the theme, or if it doesn't really grab me and immerse me into the game, then chances are I might not come back to the second play because I'll be like, well, what else is there? Or I'll think, well, I'd rather play this one. But you give me a solid theme, you give me solid mechanics, you give me interesting stuff to do and immerse me into the game, like Spirit Island and Deep Rock and Hegemony and Ark Nova and all these other favorites, Sentinels in the Multiverse and that. You give me them in combination and I'm going to want to keep coming back to those games over and over and over. And so it works in that regard. But yeah, good theme, interesting mechanics, like somebody make a third typewriter mechanic game. I would certainly love that right now. Those two are probably the biggest things that get me excited for a game. I'm no longer putting too much emphasis on the name on the box, but the name on the box would certainly maybe get me less excited for a game. I'm not going to get too excited for a game just because my favorite publisher or designer makes it, but I'm definitely probably going to be less excited for a game if I know a designer or publisher that I'm not into their games as much is making it. But then I would still try it because I want to be proven wrong. I want to pick up, I give Stonemeyer games a hard time. I don't mean to, but it's just the way it is. But then there are other people whose games I've not necessarily gravitated towards. I mentioned Stefan Feld and Knizia and that. David Turksey, some of David Turksey's games I still really enjoy some of them, and some of them I find a bit dull. It really is up and down. But I want to pick up a game by those designers. I want to pick up a Stonemeyer game. I want to pick up a game by somebody I don't normally like and play it and go, this is fantastic. Well done. Kudos from me. This is the game I'm keeping on the shelf. Well done. More like this, please. I want more of that. I would love to get that, and have that be something that I could rave off the mountaintops about at the end of the year. But it just doesn't happen as often as I would like at the moment. That's the thing. So yeah, hopefully that's given you a bit of insight. I'd be interested to know, what are your thoughts on Three Sisters? What are your thoughts on Ice? Although, to be honest, I've heard a lot of people's thoughts on Ice already, and I get it. Second edition might be a good thing. Maybe you're waiting for the second edition. Don't let my first edition thoughts put you off too much, because who knows, maybe they have fixed some of the issues. But you can understand why I hate that edition and why I hated that play. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. What gets you excited for a game, or what deflates you in terms of a game? Or which... I suppose what doesn't... I'm more interested in what gets you excited for a game and what you don't care about on a game. Like, what is it on a game, like other stuff mentioned, that really just could not phase you one way or the other? I mean, that would be quite interesting to know. But I'm going to let it go there. Hopefully this microphone has picked up the sound nicely. We'll soon find out in post-production. But yeah, take care. I'll see a lot of you at the UK Games Expo. By all means, come up and say hi, although if I am demoing, bear in mind that I may be in the middle of talking to people and I can't be distracted for too long, so you'll have to bear that in mind. But I'll be at the Dranda Games booth. I think we're pretty much at the front of the hall. I think we literally go in through the door, turn right, and then we're on the left. I think it's literally not difficult to find Dranda Games at this expo. I think they're in Hall 3. I think it's Hall 3, I'm not sure. But like I say, I don't think it's going to be hard to find me, put it that way. But otherwise, I'll be wandering around the expo, checking out stuff, and hanging around in the evenings and just saying hi. I mean, I'm traveling light this time, so I'm not going to carry a bunch of stuff with me and that. And yeah, I can already hear the kids next door banging footballs around. The amount of times I've had to kick footballs back over the fence because they just cannot keep them on their side of the fence. Kids, eh? I'm never going to be rid of them, even if I don't want my own. Oh well. Anyway, that's it for me. I'll see you on the next episode of The Broken Meeple. Remember, it's only a game. Take care. Bye for now. Love you all.